Start
Okay,
again.
good afternoon, everyone. So today, my presentation is an overview on the Schwartz theory of basic values. So we'll begin with the introduction. So as I was saying, values have always been a central concept to us as individuals and also in social sciences since its inception. We have great scholars like Durkheim and Weber who studied on this and came up with the conclusion that it's very crucial for explaining us as individuals, our social and personal organization of ourselves, and also the changes that happens in humans. So after this inception into the studies of values, we came to realize that values can be used to categorize cultural groups. For instance, there are values which the Koreans as a whole country have. There are values which the different little societies in Korea, like Busan, people from Busan, they have values which is just about them. The people from Seoul, they have values. So there are values that categorize cultural groups, societies, and individuals. Also, values can be used to trace changes in people over time. And finally, which is one of the most important things why I'm doing an overview on this, values can be used to explain the motivational basis of attitudes and behaviors in both people as individuals and also in groups. Now, in applying values, it has been very difficult for so many centuries, in social science especially, to be able to apply values construct because there's never really been an agreeable upon concept of basic values. Before I've presented in the group about Abraham Maslow, we've spoken about Henry Murray. There have been many people who have spoken on motivational stuff, but there's never really been basic values. But the Schwartz paper of 92 and later on a paper which he collaborated with Smith in 97, it brought about a resurgence in values because in that paper, he got to identify 10 basic values. So these 10 values, they are specific in what they are about, and he also specifies the dynamic relationship among them. So this whole paper of today is going to be delving deep into this paper of his and talking about what he came up with. Now we'll begin with the nature of values. As we all know, values are what makes us, it's what represents us, is very important to us in life because your values are what you live by. And so there are 6 main features of values. When we have values, they become infused with our feelings. So values can be referred to as beliefs. Our belief system, for us as Christians, we believe Christ is the Son of God. We believe there is only one God. The Islams believe in their own and all of that. So when values become activated, they get to become mixed with our feelings for stuff. The next feature is desirable goals. Values are what motivates the actions we take. The third one transcends specific actions and situations. So from this third feature, we get to realize that values are not attitudes. Values are bigger than actions, they are bigger than situations, they're bigger than attitudes. For an example, loyalty, the value of loyalty. To be loyal to somebody is not a situation, it's not an action, it's not an attitude, it's a value. So value goes way above actions and situations and even attitudes. The fourth major feature of a value serves as a standard. It guides the evaluations of our actions as individuals and also of groups. What they use as a standard to judge what has been done or what they get to do is their values. Another feature is relative to people, values are ordered according to importance. For instance, There are people who have a value of honesty, that they don't tell lies, but if they are placed in a situation where they have to lie to save their child, they may go on to lie because they value their child more than the value they have of being honest in saying the truth. So value is really the importance of values is relative to wherever you find yourself and also the situation. And the final thing, value guides action. The attitudes or behaviors that we have are all from a root form of our values. So whatever behavior you show forth, whatever attitude you have, it comes out from your values which you have in your life, which you live by. So in this, we get to realize that values are distinguished by the motivations that they express. And there are 3 universal requirements for values in the value theory, which Schwartz spoke about. There are 3 motivational requirements. There are 3 universal requirements for all the values, the 10 values which he speaks of. The first requirement is the need of an individual as a biological organism. So these values are, first of all, something that you need as an individual. The second one is the requisites of coordinated social interaction. So it also deals with your wanting to, first of all, you're wanting to survive as an individual. That's the first one, need of an individual as a biological organism. The second one is you're wanting to associate with others, because as it is always said, God did not place you alone on planet Earth, he placed you with people. So that need to want to associate with other people is the second universal requirement of the values. And the final one, survival and welfare needs of groups. Because we exist in societies and in countries, values also have to have this requirement of groups, not just the individual. So these are the 3 requirements he came up with. And then he came up now with 10 values, which are basic to every individual, every organization, and every society. The first of these values was self-direction. Self-direction is what defines our goals and ambitions in life. This is the need to want to take control of your life, the need to want to be in charge of whatever happens. The second value was stimulation. And stimulation on its own already explains it, but as a value, it's what provides the energy to go on, for a person to go on and achieve whatever they've set for themselves as a goal. The next value was hedonism. This is the value which has to deal with self-gratification, with wanting to please yourself, pleasures of your own senses. The fourth one was achievement. This is the need to be successful, to be competent in whatever it is you're doing or what you want to achieve. The fifth value was power from the paper. And power is the value of power is all about social recognition, prestige, and to be in charge, to have control over resources and over people. The next value was security, which has to deal with our safety. It has to deal with stability in family, of ourselves, and even in relationship with others, which is harmony. The next value was conformity. Now, conformity is a value which we as individuals, we try to restrain our actions. We try to limit ourselves to not act according to our impulses, because we don't want to violate social expectations from our society, from our community where we come from. And also the next one was, oh, sorry. The next one was traditions. This one has to deal with respect. Now, tradition and conformity, the values of tradition and conformity, according to Schwartz, were almost the same thing, but conformity was more about social expectations, while tradition was more about religious beliefs and culture of the people. So the value of tradition is the respect and commitment that's trying to accept and keep the culture which your group has put together, or as a religion to keep the 10, like for Christians, the 10 commandments, your respect and commitment to value that and keep it and live by it. And the eighth value, which was called benevolence, again, we could still call it the need for affiliation to relate with others. It was the value of wanting to ensure that the people with whom you associate in your society are also being treated well. That's, you are enhancing their welfare, ensuring that they live good lives like you. And the final value of universalism, this is the value of appreciating and protecting the welfare of not just people, but all mankind, all of life, be it the environment as a whole and also humans. So according to Schwartz's value theory, these were the 10 basic values which he spoke about and in his paper, which they came to. So they were placed in a little
Wow.
at this in the I've just on in the table which I've put, they were arranged according to 4 categories. People who have values in the first category, openness to change. That these are people who are open to go on, maybe to push the limits and go into other things. And then self-transcendence, that's going above yourself. Because if you look at how they're arranged, you have openness to change, self-transcendence, conservation, and self-enhancement. So all these 10 values, he placed them in these 4 different categories, saying that if you stimulation, as I'm using my cursor to try to explain the stimulation on this side and tradition, conformity on the other side, to show that this side are people who are open to want to change stuff about themselves. They want to push the limits. They want to go on to maybe take control of themselves. While on this other side are people who want to not push things more than they already are. They'll prefer to stay with the norms and the culture and that kind of. And then for self-transcendence, that's universalism and benevolence, these are people who their values, and it's not about themselves, it's more about everybody as a whole. Universalism and benevolence, it's about everybody as a whole. It's about the whole society. So it doesn't really matter whether they succeed personally. What's more important is if the society is succeeding, everybody is doing well. And achievement on the other end of this scope, which is self-enhancement, is about people who think about themselves first, what they can achieve, what they can succeed in. It doesn't really matter how the other people are doing, but what they do. So this is the whole thing about the theory. And to measure these values, he came up with a scale which is called the PVQ, the Portrait Values Questionnaire. Now, the Portrait Values Questionnaire is used to measure these 10 basic values. It provides a strong base for self-evaluation of any individual. And significant studies have proven that it is also consistent and remains invariant. So the whole reason why I went in this direction of studies was because in trying to understand the last presentation I had, there were three major parts we were looking into. We're looking at motivation of an individual. We're trying to measure motivation, trying to measure the cognitive part and the empathic part. So you have empathy, cognition, and motivation. Those are the three things. So this, I'm believing with this, but this PVQ, the portrait value questionnaire, I can use it to push my research forward by, first of all, whosoever I'm going to be using as a, as somebody who's going to, as a person to take part in watching, when we're going to be analyzing their results of identification, we could at first give them this questionnaire to fill. So we get to see where their values are, what they value more important. So with their results, we can get to compare to see maybe if an individual is more valued towards what they can achieve, their achievement and power. Maybe those are their basic values, achievement and power. And maybe a movie like Aladdin with the Jafar figure and Aladdin figure. Aladdin is more of an open person. He was not just about himself. So we can get to gauge to see if the values, people's basic values, does affect the identification with protagonists in movies whose values are maybe on the opposite end of the whole value, the 10 basic value scale.
I see. Wow. Okay, did you finish it?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so for the questionnaire,
yes, Professor.
Let's try to check the questionnaire with our student, right?
Okay, Professor.
So you give each sentence of the questionnaire in English and Korean, okay?
Okay, Professor.
If for the English, for the Korean, I want to check. I can help you for check the correctness of the translation. But
yes,
you need to do it first by yourself, okay?
Yes, Professor.
Okay,
yes, Professor.
So let's make it, and I also want to check my own value also. I think it's it's good research. Huh?
Yes, Professor.
So the diagram shows very good insight about the value. Okay, false. So I want to check it, and later I want you to discuss how this can be used for the next step.
Okay, Professor.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.